The vice mayor of a South Florida city was found dead in her home Wednesday morning, and police say her husband is in custody in connection with the case.
This is being investigated as a domestic violence incident. Her husband, Stephen Bowen, is in our custody. There are no additional suspects at this time.
Court records show Bowen has been charged with premeditated murder and tampering with evidence. It's unclear if he has an attorney. Nancy Metayer Bowen became the first Black and Haitian American woman elected to the Coral Springs Commission in 2020 and was appointed to her second term as vice mayor in 2025. Her colleagues remembered her as compassionate and committed.
She truly cared about people, even when people were saying some of the most horrible things about her and us. She still cared, rolled up her sleeves, went to every event that she could go to.
Florida Congressman Jared Moskowitz said she was about to announce a run for Congress, writing on X, "Nancy was one of the nicest people I worked with, always fighting for her community, always pushing to help. She had such a future. This is terrible." A statement from Metayer Brown's family said she was a, quote, cherished member of the family and a dedicated public servant. Adding, quote, "To us, she was a source of strength, wisdom, and love, someone who always put others before herself." Bowen also faced personal tragedy. Her brother, Donovan Metayer, died by suicide in December after a years-long battle with schizophrenia. According to the family, he was a survivor of the 2018 mass shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Earlier this year, Metayer Bowen was recognized with a community award where she spoke about overcoming division.
"I firmly believe that our collective strength lies in our ability to show up for one another. We send a powerful message that belonging is not conditional and that our shared humanity is stronger than any force that seeks to divide us."
The Coral Springs Police Department says the investigation is ongoing.
Imagine walking into a room and feeling the energy shift just because one person arrived. That was Nancy Metayer Bowen. She was the kind of person who didn't just occupy a space, she transformed it. If you live in Coral Springs, Florida, or followed environmental politics, you knew her name. She was a powerhouse, an environmental scientist, the first Black Haitian American woman on the city commission, and eventually the vice mayor. She was the person everyone looked to for answers, for leadership, and for hope. But on the morning of April 1st, 2026, that light was extinguished in the most horrific way imaginable. Before we get into the dark details of what happened that morning, I have to ask you a question. Why do we keep letting stories like this become just another headline? If you're sitting there right now, comfortable and safe, remember that Nancy wasn't. She was a protector who couldn't protect herself from the one person who should have been her sanctuary. If you actually care about justice and want to make sure these victims are never forgotten, you need to engage with this. Subscribe to Crime Chronicles, hit that bell icon, and like this video. If you don't, these stories just disappear into the noise, and their lives deserve better than silence. Join us, because ignoring this is how it happens again. Nancy was a force of nature. She was born and raised in Florida, the daughter of Haitian immigrants, and she carried that heritage like a badge of honor. She wasn't just a politician. She was a scientist who looked at the world through the lens of sustainability. She wanted to make sure the earth we leave behind is actually livable. When she was elected to the Coral Springs City Commission in 2020, it was a massive deal. She was breaking glass ceilings left and right. People loved her because she was authentic. She was the vice chair of the Florida Democratic Party, a board member for Friends of the Earth, and a mentor to so many young women of color. By all accounts, she was living the dream. She was married to Stephen Bowen, a man who, from the outside, seemed to be part of her support system. They were a prominent couple. But that is the thing about true crime, isn't it? We only see the highlight reel. We see the photos of the smiles at the gala and the handshakes at the podium. We don't see what happens when the front door of a beautiful home in a quiet, manicured neighborhood clicks shut. We don't see the tension that builds in the shadows of a successful woman's life. On April 1st, a day usually reserved for lighthearted pranks, the atmosphere in Coral Springs turned heavy. It started with a welfare check. Someone noticed she wasn't where she was supposed to be. When you are as active and reliable as Nancy, people notice when you go silent. When the officers arrived at her home, they weren't expecting a prank. They were expecting the worst. And unfortunately, the worst is exactly what they found. Nancy Metayer Bowen, The woman who fought for the planet and her community was found dead. The cause wasn't a random accident or a medical emergency. It was intentional. It was violent. And it happened within the four walls she called home.
Day for the community of Coral Springs and beyond, with the Vice Mayor Nancy Metayer Bowen set to be laid to rest today.
Many will gather for a celebration of her life as questions still remain over her tragic murder. Local 10's Isabella Martin joining us live from Coral Springs with more. Isabella.
Yeah, good morning. Well, it was just over 2 weeks ago that Nancy Metayer was shot and killed, police say, by her husband. Now this morning, friends, family, and the Coral Springs community are going to come to Church by the Glades to celebrate her life.
This afternoon, the community will gather to say goodbye to Coral Springs Vice Mayor Nancy Metayer. Friends, family, and those she impacted preparing to honor her life. Details from police help piece together what happened.
Break down the door and go down, whatever means.
Ma'am, I understand that we're worried about her and we're trying to find her, but we can't just break down the door. We have to have a reason.
A desperate 911 call from family trying to get help inside her home.
I'm going to give you a reason. Okay, my nephew, her husband, came to my house this morning and told me that he did something to her.
Okay, her
I said,
husband?
Is he alive? He said no.
Stephen Bowen, her husband, now charged with her murder. Police say Metayer was found shot, wrapped in a comforter and garbage bags. Records show officers had been called to the home several times. One for a disturbance with some details still not public.
And who will fight to make government more accountable.
And if there were signs of trouble, those close to her say she kept them private.
What we see is the escalation happens between rounds of these different incidences of abuse. So the quicker we can get law enforcement to the scene to understand what the issue is, the more seriously we can deal with the perpetrator and the abuser.
Lawmakers now pushing for more protections, including tools that could silently alert police.
You call that number, nobody picks up. If somebody grabs the phone from you, there's nobody on the other end for them to talk to. And then the police geolocate you, and it's an emergency panic button, and they come to your house.
The viewing starts at 11:30, followed by a celebration of life at 12:30 at Church by the Glades in Coral Springs. The service will be live streamed and family is asking for privacy inside.
And again, if you'd like to come, that viewing starts at 11:30 here at Church by the Glades, with the celebration of life starting at 12:30. For now, reporting live in Coral Springs, I'm Isabella Martin, Local 10 News.
The discovery of Nancy's body sent a shockwave through Florida that's honestly hard to describe if you weren't following the news that day. Think about it for a second. This wasn't just a local official. This was a woman who was essentially the heartbeat of her community. When the police tape went up around that house in Coral Springs, the neighbors weren't just curious. They were devastated. You could see it in the eyes of the people standing on the sidewalks. There was this collective sense of not her. Because if someone with her resources, her intelligence, and her power could be targeted like this, what does that mean for everyone else? The investigation didn't take long to point toward the person closest to her. While the community was mourning, the police were already tracking Stephen Bowen. He wasn't at the house when they found Nancy. He was eventually located in Plantation, which is about 25 minutes away. Just think about that drive. While his wife lay in their home, he was moving through the world as if it were any other Wednesday. When he was taken into custody and charged with premeditated murder, the reality of the situation shifted from a tragedy to a deep, visceral betrayal. Now, I want to talk to you guys about the premeditated part of that charge because that's where things get really chilling. It means this wasn't some heat-of-the-moment argument that got out of hand. Premeditation implies a plan. It implies that while Nancy was out there advocating for the environment and working for her constituents, there was a dark narrative being written in the background. It makes you wonder what the days leading up to April 1st were actually like inside that house. Was there a specific moment where the mask slipped? Or was this a slow, simmering resentment that finally boiled over? What's truly haunting is how Nancy spent her final months. She had just been appointed vice mayor. She was at the peak of her career. Often, in these cases, we see a pattern where a partner feels threatened by a woman's rising sun. We see a need for control that manifests in the most permanent way possible when that control is challenged. Nancy was a battle buddy to her colleagues, someone who fought for others. It is a bitter irony that while she was fighting for the rights of thousands, she was facing a personal war that no one else could see. The twist here isn't just the crime itself, but the timing. April 1st. In the digital age, when news first broke, many people actually thought it was a sick joke. That's the level of disbelief we were talking about. But as the hours passed and the Coral Springs Police Department held their briefings, the horrific truth settled in. The city lost its light, and the why began to center around a domestic situation that she had kept hidden behind a professional, poised exterior. It reminds us that you truly never know what is happening behind closed doors, no matter how bright the person is. The details that emerged from the police affidavit are enough to make your stomach turn. It wasn't just a discovery. It was a scene of calculated concealment. Investigators found Nancy in an upstairs bedroom, but she wasn't just lying there. Her body had been wrapped in blankets and placed inside garbage bags. There were spent shotgun shells near her, and the house itself showed signs of violence, with damage to the exterior that looked like projectile holes. It's a chilling image. A woman who spent her life building up her community, found treated like something to be hidden away. And here is the breakthrough that really pieces the timeline together. According to the documents, Stephen actually spoke to a witness and allegedly admitted to the shooting, claiming he did it the night before and then just went downstairs to sleep. He even tried to get someone to hold a bag containing the weapon for him. Can you imagine the coldness required to do that? To pull the trigger multiple times, wrap the person you swore to love in plastic, and then go sleep in the next room? When Stephen was asked why he did it, he reportedly told his uncle he just couldn't take it anymore. It's a phrase we hear so often in these cases, and it's always so hollow. What couldn't he take? Her success? Her light? Her independence? He was a man who described himself online as a man of God and a protector, yet he became the very thing she needed protection from. As we look at the legacy of Nancy Metayer Bowen, we have to face some uncomfortable psychological truths. How does a person maintain such a high-functioning, public-facing life while living with a predator? Did she know the danger was this close, or was she, like many high achievers, convinced she could manage the conflict and fix the person she loved? It forces us to ask, do we ever truly know the people we share our beds with? What dark thoughts are simmering behind the smiles of the people in our own lives? Psychologically, what drives a man to destroy the very thing he claims to cherish? Is it a desperate need for control when a partner's star rises too high? Or is it a deep-seated darkness that was always there, just waiting for the right moment to strike? These are the heavy questions we're left with. Nancy's story doesn't end here, though. It lives on in the reforms being pushed in her name. If this story moved you or made you realize how fragile safety can be, please don't just move on to the next video. Like this post, subscribe to Crime Chronicles, and click that bell icon so you never miss an update. By staying engaged, you help keep these stories and these victims from being forgotten. I'll see you in the next one.